In today's education news, shall we have a chat about these new sex education guidance proposals? We all know that with this government, they are incredibly honest and truthful, and there's been nothing over the past 14 years that would make us think and question their integrity when it comes to providing evidence for why they make certain decisions. This morning, Gillian Keegan was on BBC News and she made quite a bold claim about why this guidance is needed based on evidence that she's heard. And I'll let you listen to the clip here.
Give me an example of a classroom you've been told about that you've seen evidence for, not anecdotal, but you've been told an image or something was used in a classroom for an under 9-year-old. What's the evidence?
There have been materials which I've seen and I've had seen.
Like what? Tell me what those are.
I was just about to, Charlie. I was just about to. So the evidence is things like, choosing lots of different sort of genders and identities and saying which ones of these are gender identities, the spectrum. The sort of, it can be a spectrum, it's fluid, you can have different genders on different days or different, there's 72 of them, that kind of thing. Yes, there has been evidence.
And that was taught by a teacher in a classroom.
We've received evidence with those slides to say that they've been taught in classrooms.
She's then gone on to admit she doesn't know how widespread the use of these inappropriate materials, which is her job. I mean, if she's going to spend all this money in implementing new guidance, surely she'd want to know, unless she's using this as a way to just sort of distract from other things and stoke more culture wars around a topic that isn't anywhere near as bad as what she's making out. The proposals themselves are going to put some age limits on sensitive content and ban schools from teaching about gender identity. Let's have a quick look through some of those age limits. So, you are not to teach before year 3 the risks relating to online gaming, or why social media apps, computer games are age restricted. For year 4, you're not to talk about puberty or the changes in adolescence. Year 5, you are not to do anything beyond what's already in the national curriculum, which is a thing, right? If I'm wrong with this, I'll hold my hands up. Has that happened anyway? What? And anyway, you can see here, if you want to pause the video, and I'll put a link to the news story here about what's not to be taught in primary at all. Now, Jonathan here made a really good point about these age restrictions in that they could restrict teachers' ability to respond to the learning needs of the children in front of them. We know as teachers how important safeguarding is, and we are finding that a real uphill battle when we are seeing the detrimental impact access to mobile phones and social media are having on our students. It was only last week I was sharing some of the findings from the Ofcom report into children's media use, where it was, I think, 30% of 5 to 7 year olds have their own smartphone. 38% of 5 to 7 year olds are on social media. So the government, who've done absolutely nothing for young people in the time they've been in power, and have obviously taken away all the funding to anything that helped parents, the austerity measures that got rid of all the Sure Start centres, if they were still around now, they'd have had so many things in place as far as educating parents around tech use and what access children should have to social media and the likes. But instead, they've done nothing around that, but now have put these proposals in place that means if issues arise from students using devices outside of school, teachers are limited as far as what they can do to educate around these issues. Gillian Keegan's justification for these proposals, which she shared on numerous platforms, is she said she's seen evidence where children are being taught from a slideshow talking about 72 genders or whatever it might be. Now, in my experience as a primary school teacher, never seen any of that, never seen any of those sort of materials. I travel around the country, visit hundreds and thousands of schools, and I've never once seen anything linked to that. This news article suggests it's actually linked to this story from the Isle of Man, which I've read, and if it is based on that, they are clutching at straws. Gillian Keegan is great adept when it comes to fiction writing. A couple of questions, by the way. If I'm wrong with this, if you are a teacher who has been told that you've got to teach stuff like this, please get in touch and I will stand corrected. I think that there is no evidence. I think this is just a cheap way of getting headlines to stoke more of those culture wars, to detract from the actual issues going on in the country, not just within education, but the wider issues. And here's the thing, I want kids to have the best childhood because you only get one crack at it. And I know as a teacher, safeguarding is so incredibly important. It's imperative, one of the most important aspects of our job. But I can't help but feeling that if the government actually truly cared, they would have done so much more up until this point as far as restricting children's access to things like social media, where they are being exposed to so much inappropriate content at such a young age, which is creating a lot of problems and issues. And therefore, without that being addressed, all of this stuff about what we're teaching in school, it doesn't really matter.